This $1, we're given about 8 to 9 million of these in the Forest Preserve, from what I understand in the budget so far. You spend these to buy a lot of good things. Open space, competent staff work, and I am in favor of appropriate raises. For 1.5 of these, in comparison to this, you can buy yourself a disproportionately large amount of goodwill for 1 more year. There are going to be a lot of complicated, sophisticated arguments that can be made within this room, but I think that all of them pale when we leave here and face most of our constituents and they plead with us, do whatever you want, spend the money I give you however you think best, but please don't make my life harder by raising the property tax levy. In listening to several of you on this subject, some of your constituents are fortunate enough to have so much money, which I celebrate, I don't resent it, I celebrate success, that property taxes don't cripple them. But 21 years of listening to most people, they say that they just can't afford to have more in their property taxes. If it was a voluntary process, we could choose either to put it in or not put it in, I would say that'd be something different. But this is compulsory, and we know it, and whether I can afford it or not, I've got to pay those taxes. For 21 years, as I listen to people who call my office, I've said before that, the older fellas, they're usually hollering at me, and the older ladies, they're usually on the phone crying. I remember when my mom used to, she worked here in Geneva at the phone company for 19 years, answering 411. She used to go over to Gordy Volkman. Some of you might remember Gordy Volkman was a treasurer, but before he was treasurer of Kane County, he worked at the Aurora National Bank. She'd go over each year and she'd need to borrow the money to pay the property taxes, and then have to pay them off during the rest of the year. My grandpa, who owned a small catering business, lived on Pigeon Hill on Leonard's Avenue. He used to come home, and when I'd be over visiting, he'd start talking back to the TV, and I'd go, "Grandpa, they can't hear you." And he'd say, "I built this house. I was the general contractor for it, and I paid, all the mortgage off, and I still have to pay rent to live here." So naturally, very concerned. Again, lots of complicated, sophisticated arguments why we must raise the levy. The cruelest will be that it's only 1.7%, only 1.5 of these. But that's the best reason to freeze it. We only have to find 1.5 pennies. So here's my offer. Intergovernmental cooperation. I think in relationship to the $9 to $10 million of the Forest Preserve, the county government, it's about a 20 and a 5, so about $25. I say that we look at the whole picture as a whole. We try to generate some options for revenue, expenses, in the area where we should be. Grant options, I understand that there was a time when Mike McCoy was chairman that there was a precedent set for using riverboat grant money at some point in Forest Preserve and to hold levy down, and then also leaving out reserves until 2016 when we had some relief coming because of the debt payment coming down. Final thought. When all else failed in 3rd grade, Sister Mary Margaret used to tell us over at Holy Angels, Chris, this is going to go on your permanent record. On the lighter side, that when folks vote for tax increases, those stay on their voting permanent record, and it's just not